The preliminary report which has come last night leaves many doubts in my opinion. Why did the engines fail? The fuel supply to the engines have just cut off because of some technical malfunction. There has been a lot of reports of, lot of maintenance mispractices in Boeing.
After this report, I think there will be more questions asked. Engines could shut automatically, or electrical signals or the computer signals can be wrong, but it cannot move the switches up and down. There was no sabotage. There was no fuel contamination. There was no flap misconfiguration. There was no problem with the aircraft maintenance.
The preliminary report which has come last night leaves many doubts in my opinion. Why did the engines fail? The pilot has given a mayday call. So mayday call is given by the pilot when there is a grave emergency in the aeroplane. It is collaborated with operation of RAT. All of us have seen that one RAT has deployed, that is the ram air turbine. So it indicates that the complete electricals and complete engines have failed. Now the issue comes of fuel cutoff lever. In my appreciation, when I saw the 787 manual, it says when both the engines have been cut off, these levers have to be moved mechanically for it to restart. So the pilots are taking off. In my appreciation, the engines have failed, and they, in this short period after giving the mayday call, they have tried to relight the engine.
So one more thing, as you have said, there is a voice recording coming and landing. Both pilots were talking with each other, saying, "Did you cut off the fuels?"
So this reinforces what you are saying, that they were not aware at all. So one pilot surprisingly is asking the other pilot, "Did you cut off the fuel?" So it means the fuel supply to the engines have just cut off because of some technical malfunction, in my opinion. And there have been a report in 2018 by the FAA which says that this malfunction can take place. And in 2019, the Japanese airline, Nippon Airlines, aircraft 787 on landing in Jan 2019 had both engine failures on same 787. But fortunately it happened at landing. So when the aircraft landed, the engines got cut off and the aircraft rolled and stopped and it was towed back. But a lot of advisories have been issued by the Boeing agencies and GE, which is manufacturing the engine. It is for the operators and the regulators to ensure those things are done.
So you are the veteran of Indian Air Force, former Air Marshal. How you see why this happened? Is this a kind of manufacturing defect, technical defect, or why all of this happens suddenly? Because when the plane take off, both engines were running, fuel supply was okay, everything is okay, and suddenly the fuel supply cut off and engine failure happens. Why would you see?
See, this is happened for the first time on 787 aeroplane. There has been a lot of reports of, lot of maintenance mispractices in Boeing. A lot of reports and whistleblowers have. I am not in any way linking those to this incident, but this aircraft has come from Delhi. It has landed, it has refueled, and it is now going from Ahmedabad to London. The aircraft is fully loaded with full passengers with 100 plus tons of fuel, and it has an immediate engine failure on takeoff. If the switches were not in the on position, the aircraft would not have been able to start, taxi, line up and take off. So we are ruling out in any way, in my appreciation, that the switches were in off position at any stage before flight. So it means the switches are on, otherwise the aircraft wouldn't have been able to take off. Now, immediately after takeoff, something has happened which I am not sure what, but engines have lost power. And that is what is the report. 20 days ago, the complete data was downloaded. There is a camera inside the 787 cockpit whose information is also stored in the FDR, which the investigators may have, which can collaborate what happened exactly. So that once and final the report comes. But in my opinion, the GE, the Boeing company, the Air India maintenance and Air India management should take into cognizance all the advisories that have been sent before we start continuing with this operation.
After this report, I think there will be more questions asked there as to why the engine failed, because before this there were so many questions to be asked or speculations were there. Okay. Definitely the pilot community will be unanimous in its opinion that it is not an inadvertent action of moving the switches up and down. Okay, and the engines could shut automatically, or electrical signals or the computer signals can be wrong, but it cannot move the switches up and down. So we need more clarity on it. Was it the fuel switch, or was it the fuel shut-off valve that the AIB means?
Can it be something else from the aircraft side as well? Because it's a very, very used thing. And when we talk about the Boeing, this particular aircraft, you have always defended this aircraft, sir. And I have always asked many questions from the point of view, from the Dreamliner point of view, sir.
Look, even with this particular accident, this continues to be the safety, as per the safety record, it continues to be the safest aircraft in the world. That is one. That is Boeing 787. Okay. However, if there was a problem with the engine or the engine logic system or the fuel supply logic system, I don't know. They need to investigate, because things do go wrong, and whether they go wrong because there was a design fault, then Boeing will have to do something about it. If it goes wrong, because here the fuel switches cannot move on its own.
Okay, sir, thank you so much for giving your time today, and we appreciate.
Okay, very good morning. Once again, we are back with the report. AIB preliminary report has clarified few speculations which is out of the window now. There was no sabotage, there was no fuel contamination, there was no flap misconfiguration, there was no problem with the aircraft maintenance. Aircraft was producing full power and it achieved the right speed and it got airborne, and first 3 seconds of its flight was absolutely normal. Now this is conclusively proven by the AIB report. In the time stamp of 0842, that is 3 seconds after takeoff, the AIB report states that the power, the engine run cutoff switch, fuel switch transitions from the run to cutoff within 1 second. That means within 1 second this switch moved its position. There is no automatic movement of the switch. The switch is a physical switch and it cannot move inadvertently or because of any failure or because of any malfunction. What is conclusive is that at that particular instance, the aircraft stopped to produce power. It was producing 100% power or thrust, and thereafter it started to reduce power, at which the AIB says the pilot asked the other pilot, why did you cut off the switch? Pilot said, I didn't do it. That means pilots were aware that the aircraft engine power has been lost, and pilots also were aware that they did not do any action to cause this. From thereafter, for next 10 to 14 seconds, engines were not producing power and the aircraft eventually lost lift and speed, and then it continued to descend. The AIB report says that the switch transitioned from off to run and aircraft was trying to start itself, and in the process it went to collide. When it collided, the switch position was at the run position. The AIB report to me is only conclusive to say that the accident happened because both engines lost power. This stage is not there to find out why did it lose power. Both did lose power. Any suggestion, any kind of an commentary, any kind of an speculation that pilots killed the engines 3 seconds after takeoff is totally incorrect. It is not a possibility. It is not a technical possibility that the switches which can be moved from one position to another on its own. Maybe the AIB should have clarified, or maybe it will clarify in due course of time, that it was not the fuel cutoff switch, but the fuel shut-off valve that probably switched off while the fuel cut-off switch continued to remain in its position. That being said, I think one thing is conclusive, that we have lost the power and the aircraft went down.